Hi everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of Mujeres de Pilar. I'm Pilar, your host, and I am so excited to finally share Mujeres de Pilar with all of you. It's an idea that I've been sitting on for so long, and I am so excited to finally share it. I want to start the podcast off today by thanking everybody who has sent me so much love and support. Last week, I released a small clip called Intro, just to kind of give people the idea of the podcast, to let people know that it was coming and what it's about. I received so much love. I feel so grateful. And I really hope that this podcast can help to open doors for women, to inspire them, to encourage them, to unite them. And I hope that you guys love the podcast as much as I already do. So for today, because of our current situation with coronavirus and making sure that we are social distancing, I decided to make the first episode about you guys all getting to know all things me related. And I'm not going to spill the tea completely, all right? I want there to be a little bit of room for us to, get to know each other over the course of the podcast. But I wanted you guys to have a good idea of who I am and what the podcast is about. So let's start. First things first. What is Mujeres de Pilar? So Mujeres de Pilar is a podcast that I started dreaming of and developing probably about 2 years ago. So I was coming out of a really difficult time in my life, a very ugly phase, and I was reevaluating a lot of different parts of my life, and one of those reevaluations was my friendships. And I was looking at the people who were around me, and I was thinking of all the people who had uplifted me during this really ugly phase, and I felt so loved and I felt so empowered by these individuals because they never gave up on me. And for those of you who do know me as Danielle or Pilar or Danielle-Pilar, negative is probably not one of the words that you would use to describe me as, or dark, but I was really dark. I was really negative and I was in a really ugly headspace. And so I think most people would use the words empowering, optimistic, positive, fiery, fierce, chicana. But I don't think negative is one of those words. And that's exactly what I was. I was really dark, really negative. And as I was coming out of this funk, I really wanted to be able to create something for all of those women, femmes, gays, LGBTQ community. I wanted to find a way to pay homage to them because they were really the reason that I got back to quote unquote normal. They never gave up on me. They created this bubble around me that was literally like a bubble of positivity and a bubble of safety to keep me in the right headspace. And I don't think that I would have come out as strong if it wasn't for these individuals. So during this time, I was also getting really into podcasting, and not so much creating a podcast, but more so listening to podcasts. And I want to give a shout out to Locatora Radio. The hosts, Mala and Diosa Femme, are amazing, powerful women, and they really encouraged me to create a space of my own for my community. See, they have this very beautiful way of uplifting the women's and the LGBTQ community on this pedestal. They have this great way of breaking down stereotypes, breaking down these walls that separate us, and empowering women, especially the Latino community, the Latinx community. They just have this great way of making people who look like me feel amazing. And I wanted to be able to do that for my community. I wanted to do that for the people in my life, the women in my life who had empowered me and encouraged me. It was time for their stories to be told. So I started thinking, well, what if I made a podcast for these women and gays in my life who have built me, And that's where the idea came for Mujeres de Pilar. Now the name came much later. It was just one day me doodling down ideas about what the podcast would be about and doodling names and thinking about artwork. And I don't even remember any other name that I wrote down, because once I wrote down Mujeres de Pilar, that was it. That was what it was going to be. And those of you who know me know that Spanish is not my first language. You know that Spanish is not even really a language that I can say confidently that I speak it fluently, because I don't, Like I said before, I am a Chicana, but I was raised in a home where we spoke English first, and I am also fifth generation American, and so my Spanish is very broken, but I try really hard, guys, and I will be fluent in Spanish. I do think it's important as a Chicana to be able to speak the language. So my boyfriend was like, do you think that that's going to cause some controversy because you don't speak Spanish fluently? And I was like, no, because it sounds so right. It feels so good. Mujer in Spanish means woman. It is such a powerful word on its own. Whenever I hear women speaking to each other and they call each other mujer, it's very empowering and very endearing. And I knew when I was creating the name that I wanted to use the word woman, but I wanted it to be in Spanish. That was a must. And so that was it. That was mujer. And then Pilar, obviously my name is Pilar, but Pilar means, it's a pillar, strength, foundation. And that's what, the women in these episodes, that's what they are to me. They are the strength. They are the foundation of my life. And obviously, it's called Mujeres de Pilar, so women of Pilar. Obviously, they're not of me. They're not from my body, but they are of my life. They are of my seasons. They are of my color. And I want them to be empowered. So once I came up with Mujeres de Pilar, that was the title. That was what it was going to be called. And I'm not going back, and I'm sticking to it. I love it. And I hope that everybody's empowered by it. So that's how I created the title, the name, and the podcast. This is what it's going to be about. So episode after episode, you are going to be introduced to different individuals in my life who have empowered me and who are on their own road to success. And I just want to be able to archive their life right now in the moment before the big boom, because they are going to blow up and change the world. And I want them to be able to come back to these episodes and remember this time in their life. So I hope that you guys fall in love with my friends as much as I love them. So a little bit more about me. I am originally from Phoenix, Arizona. I moved to California when I was 18 years old to go to a performing arts school in Hollywood. And I'm an only child, and both of my parents are still married. They're actually going on 31 years of marriage. And they're so beautiful. They're so inspiring. I love them so much, and they are so supportive of me. I have definitely grown up to realize how fortunate I am to have them as my parents. How privileged I am that I have two parents that are still together, but also two parents who are very encouraging of not only me, but of my circle, of the people who are in my life. They're very encouraging of everybody and very accepting. And I have learned, as I've grown up, and especially after living here in California, I have learned that not everybody has that. So I'm very fortunate. Mom and Dad, I love you so much. And so I hope that you're proud with this podcast as well, because it's a part of you guys. Also, it's me sharing with the world the values that you've given me, and to remember to be accepting and loving of everyone. And so I hope that that is portrayed in every episode, and that it goes through my speaker to your guys' ears. And, I hope that you guys can benefit in your lives from this podcast. So that's a little bit about me. So I moved to California when I was 18. And then I moved back home to Phoenix for a little while. And I knew that my stay in Phoenix was going to be very short because California was where I wanted to be. I love California. I know that I have a much bigger purpose out here. And so I knew I was going to want to come back. I didn't decide to move back to California until after my Nana passed away. So my Nana Cecilia passed away in March of 2013. And that's when I told my boyfriend, who is still my boyfriend to, this day. We're almost on 10 years of being in a relationship. And that's another episode for another day. But I told him, I'm going to move to California. You can come with me, or we can, do this long distance thing. But he came with me, and I will forever be grateful to him for being willing to sacrifice everything that he knew in Phoenix to be with me here for my crazy dreams and ideas of what I would like to accomplish in this lifetime. So we moved here, and we actually moved to a little city in California called Downey, California. If you are not from California, I think even if you are from California, you could probably drive right through Downey because it's like located near all of the freeways. There's a freeway attached at every end of Downey, and you could literally drive right through it. It's a very sweet city. And his tia actually helped us find an apartment, a very affordable, nice apartment, which is really crazy to be able to find in California, an affordable and a nice place and a safe place to stay. And so we moved to Downey. It's never where I pictured my life being. I thought when I was moving back to LA, I was going to move to Hollywood or Burbank or, downtown LA, somewhere where all the action is. But I think that it was my purpose to end up in Downey. And I think that all kind of goes full circle back to this podcast. So we moved to Downey. I was looking for a job. We ended up going and eating at a local bakery that I had actually been to when I was attending the performing arts school. And I told my boyfriend he had to go and try the product. So we went in one day. I was looking at everybody work, and I was just like, this is it. I'm going to get a job here. And I had been struggling to find a job for about a whole month, and nobody wanted to interview me. Nobody wanted to meet me. That was right off the bat. I knew like, oh, for sure, you're not in Arizona. Arizona's a little bit slower. People were more willing to interview and meet me. But in California, I struggled to find a job. So while we were eating, I was like, oh, I'm going to get a job here. That's what I told my boyfriend. And he was like, okay. And I'm like, no, for reals, I'm going to get a job here. And he was like, do it. Go apply then. So I did. And I was very impressed with them actually, because as soon as I asked for an application, the manager came down to meet me. He gave me a quick, a little brief interview and asked me to come back for a real interview. And I went back the next day. I had my interview, and I will never forget. Two big things happened during this interview. One, the manager told me, Pilar, sorry, he did not call me Pilar. At the time, he called me Danielle. You know what, Danielle? I don't think you're going to be good for this business. And I remember thinking like, what? Like, who says that in an interview? Like, why don't they just not hire me? And I looked at him and I said, why? And he said, I just don't think you're the type of girl that's going to want to get her hands dirty. And this is a very crazy business. I remember feeling so insulted and just like, oh my goodness. So let me tell y'all a little bit more about me. When we moved to California, we had spent all of the money that we had saved on our first month's, last month's, and our deposit. My boyfriend had a job, but that was like barely enough to keep, the roof over our head. And we still needed groceries. We had no furniture. We did, however, have a blow-up mattress that we borrowed. We had a mini fridge that didn't even hold a dozen of eggs. And I walked to my interview. I walked to my interview in the heat because it was the summer, and I changed for my interview in the bathroom of the yogurt land that I couldn't even afford to buy yogurt from. I walked across the street to the bakery. Well, now you guys know it's a bakery. And I had my interview. So he didn't know all of this. And I remember looking at him and being so shocked that he would say I wouldn't be good for the job. And I just remember needing it so much and telling myself, okay, you need to humble yourself a little bit, just a little bit more. And I looked at him and I told him, look, I might not be good for this job. I do not have any food experience, but I need this job. I told him my situation. I told him I would work in any department that he had available for me. I offered myself to maintenance. And I remember, I know now, looking back, thinking, oh my God, they would have never hired me for maintenance because they do such heavy duty work. But I was desperate. And he looked at me and he said, can we call you Pilar? Now, I had never been called Pilar in my entire life. I had always wanted to be called Pilar, but it wasn't something that I voiced to my family. So everybody in Arizona for 18 years has called me Danielle. Even my time at the Performing Arts Academy, they called me Danielle. I had never been called Pilar. And I looked at him and I said, yes. Because it fit. It was what I had always wanted to be called. I was like, this is a perfect time for me to create my alter ego. And he hired me. So I started working there, and it was really crazy because I grew so fast. Within a month, I was promoted. 2 months later, I was promoted again. By the 6th month of working there, I was their store trainer, and now I'm their supervisor. And me and this manager always look at each other and we laugh because he remembers that he told me I wouldn't be good for the business. But I really needed the job. And there weren't any ifs, ands, or buts. I just went to work. I did what I needed to do, and I got out of there. And I'm still there today. And I appreciate this job with so much, passion, because it's given me most of what I have. I have been financially independent for a while now, and it has allowed me to stay in California. And not only that, but it has introduced me to people who are going to be in my life for the rest of my life, people who have changed my life. When I was going through this really dark time, it would have been really easy to just get up and go back home to Arizona, but I didn't, because I was surrounded by family, people who really loved me, and people who I feel like I owe so much to them. And that goes back to the podcast, because most of the people who you are going to hear interviewed, I met through this job. Now, understand that I never in a million years thought that I would be working in a panaderia. And it's not a little, it is a family owned, but it's not a little hole in the wall panaderia. This is like the bakery of like Disneyland, the Disneyland of bakery, sorry. It is a huge bakery, but it's still not what I ever expected to be doing in life. So I wasn't completely satisfied, working there. And so this podcast has allowed me to be able to have some type of a creative outlet and to really just get my voice to be heard and to allow my friendships to be heard. So I owe a lot to them, and I'm really grateful that they said yes to me and that I have been able to grow up in that environment with the people that I am around, because it has really made me see a whole new side of life. And so I hope that through this podcast, you guys are going to fall in love with my friends as much as I love them. But I also hope that, they're going to be able to encourage you and to help you grow. What my goal is for this podcast is really that it's like your girlfriend talking to you on the phone. While you're getting ready in the morning for work, while you are drinking your coffee before you leave the house, or while you're driving to work, or while you're in the shower. I hope that this podcast is something that you can listen to and just feel like you're with a girlfriend, you're with your friends, and I hope that it can empower and open doors for us to accept each other, because yes, I am a Chicana, and I, more than anything, want to be able to empower the Hispanics and Latinos in my life. But I also want to be able to just empower women in general. I want us to be able to get along and to understand each other's differences, because we haven't walked in each other's shoes, and really just a safe place to be able to speak your mind. I might not always agree with the guests who I have on here. They might not always agree with my values. The listeners might not always agree with what's being told. It's not a podcast for everybody. Not every episode is going to be for everybody. But I hope that somebody can take something from each episode and incorporate that in their daily life. And I also hope to be able to reach out to the younger generation, to reach out to the teenagers and inspire them and encourage them to follow their dreams. I think that as a woman, as a person, we go through a lot of different phases of life. And I just want to be able to walk hand in hand through these phases that I'm going through now. I want to be able to go back on my past experiences, share them with people so that we can help each other do better, so that we can uplift each other to be better. And I think that that's what I want most with Mujeres de Pilar, is to just encourage people. Encourage people to be happy, encourage them to find a new outlet, something positive. And I want their voices to be heard, and their meaning the women in my life, the gays in my life, the LGBTQ community. I want them to feel accepted, and I want them to know that I love them and I am empowering them and I stand behind them 100%. And so that's really what this is about. And I hope that after today's episode that you guys want to come back and listen to episode number 2. And then you want to come back and listen to episode number 3, and that you really just want to be in this circle and feel comfortable with me. So that's a little bit about me. I also want to throw a little shout out there to my boyfriend, who has been so encouraging and so loving about this podcast. You know, sometimes I talk about values and ideas and beliefs that he's just like, oh my God, she is so crazy. But he doesn't judge me for them. He really listens to me, and he knew how important this podcast was to me. And he supports it. And so, yes, I am definitely a feminist, but I also love my man. And I just want him to know that thank you. Thank you for pushing me. Thank you for encouraging me. And thank you for loving me. And this is not the end. So I'm really excited for this, guys. I hope you guys tune in. Let me give you a little bit of an idea of what episode 2 is going to be about. We are going to be having 2 friends of mine who are so dear to my heart. Jamie and Letty Luna are going to be on Mujeres de Pilar. Next episode, we are going to be talking about their marriage in a same-sex marriage. We are going to be talking about their new business, Buñuelitas. Sorry guys, I almost butchered your name. Buñuelitas, which is the entrepreneur of the Buñuelo nachos. I just had Buñuelitas the other day. Amazing, guys. Amazing. I wish I could let you guys taste it through your radios. It is so good. Look them up. They are right now during this pandemic. They are delivering to your houses, okay? So order online and then they will deliver it to you. Their desserts are amazing, okay? We're going to have them on. We are going to talk about all things power couple related, and I am so excited. I hope you guys tune back in. Thank you guys. And also, I'm sorry if I keep rambling, but I don't know anything about making a podcast. I do not know anything about podcasting, and I just want to be very humble and honest with you guys. Sorry for all the because I know I say a lot of Sorry if I'm smacking my lips. See, there I go again. But I'm learning, and I really am excited for you guys to be on this journey, to see my growth as well. And thank you. Thank you so much, everybody who tuned in today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting me. Go ahead, listen on SoundCloud, listen on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and comment. Let me know if there is a mujer in your life that I need to meet. Let me know if there is a mujer who needs her story told. she can come on with me. And go ahead, follow us on Instagram, Mujeres de Pilar podcast, and have a great week, you guys. I love you. Stay positive. Remember to be nice and motivate the people around you.